Woo-wee, Wyoming! This was the first moment when I got here. I drove up from Denver, which is about 90 miles south. It was everything I thought first getting to Wyoming would be. I made it! Wow! But I promise you, it was way more exciting than that. I saw a lot when I came to Wyoming for the first time. We got to shoot shit and ghost hunt in an old prison. We got to pet bison, ride a damn horse, and see the oldest rodeo in the country. I even spent some time with the Native Americans. And of course, this is Yellowstone. I do love Wyoming, I tell you. A lot. Now I was here for 8 days in July of 2023. And the goal was to take all the back roads in Wyoming and stay off of the highways. Because you can't get to know a state by driving on the highways, can you? Shh. Can you hear that? Well, I hope you don't hear that. That means there's nothing to hear. We're standing on the edge of the biggest currently dormant volcano in the solar system. That we know of, I think. Anyways, it's right down there, and it's massive, everyone. It's called the Yellowstone supervolcano. They say when this thing goes, she's gonna go, like wipe out half the country. One day, underneath where I'm standing now, is gonna wake up and get real mad, mister. Could be next week. Could be in the year 1,024,000. No one knows. I don't think there's too much to worry about, though. We got more pressing concerns than this in America land. But we'll come back to this, because this was at the end of the trip. We got to rewind back to the beginning, back when I first got to Wyoming. When I first got here, I was really excited. I had never been here before. I had so many questions about this strange land. Does everyone in Wyoming chew tobacco? Did everyone in Wyoming vote for Trump? And can a Wyoming woman beat me up? I'll tell you what, it is rural, mister. There's only 578,000 people here, and it's the 10th largest state. That means there's only 6 people per square mile here. Some people call it a big empty square. It's more of a parallelogram to me. The whole state has the same area code. It's 307. It's a place of conservative, independent Republicans who don't like to be told what to do. Most folks here want to be left alone to the peace and quiet of a land that speaks of the good old days. For most people here, boring is good. Unremarkable means all is normal. Now, we took a route that wound from the southern border all the way up to Montana. And the first exit you come to from the Denver area has a little bit of Wyoming all in one. You know, fireworks, guns, gambling, and bison. This is supposedly what Wyoming looked like back in the day. And this is what Wyoming men looked like back in the day, I guess. Looking back, after being here for a week, I think that's how they all still look. The Terry Bison Ranch is the main draw off this exit. It's a big ranch where they have all sorts of animals. Oh my goodness, look at this ranch. It smells like Wyoming. Want some grass? You allowed to eat that? Don't bite me. Oh, look at that! I've been in Wyoming for an hour now and I'm already feeding animals. I'm starting to like Wyoming already. But most people come here to see the bison. You hop on a train and you go out into the bison meadow for an hour. But before the train ride, we needed to have lunch. So, well, we ate bison burgers. Then we went out to feed the bison. They sure know when it's feeding time.
That time. I think you can touch your eyeballs with that. Here, you want another one?
I wondered if he could smell his brother on my breath. Kind of felt bad about it. As we fed the bison, we also fed the flies. They were brutal. Giant black biting flies. It's kind of the circle of life at the Terry Bison Ranch. The bison fed us, then we fed the bison, and then we both fed the flies. Look at that. That looks like it hurts. And their tails can only do so much. The ranch is so close to the Colorado border that you actually cross back into Colorado on the train tour. So exciting, everyone. And by the way, it's bison, not buffalo. Buffalo live in Africa. They even have an old rodeo ring here. They still have events here, and I hear they even get big-time concert acts to come out here sometimes. Faith Hill? No, I don't think she played here. She wouldn't get that dirty. It was at the Terry Bison Ranch where I finally got up and close with the prairie dogs. You never forget that moment when you see your first prairie dog. It never gets old. So that day we drove up to Cheyenne. It's the capital of Wyoming. There's a whole video on that trip. We were there for 2 days and it was pretty neat, I can say. Cheyenne's a very nice, safe, clean place. It isn't ruined by the rest of America yet. It's like 80% conservative here. And that's liberal for Wyoming. They're not too keen on new people coming here, just like they aren't in the rest of the state. Especially if you are liberal or you do not work. Not here.
That is not an
Please don't do that.
outhouse.
This is fun. I'm in the show.
That's John Wayne.
That is not John Wayne.
One of the highlights in Cheyenne was when the Gunfight show absolutely insisted I join them on stage as part of their Wild West production. And I nailed it.
That is not John Wayne.
That's John Wayne. You did it perfect.
I did it
You
right.
did it perfect. You did it perfect. But I don't.
It's a lovely city. So on day 3, we drove up to Rawlins. It's a little hole-in-the-wall town out in the middle of the prairie. It takes a couple hours to get there from Cheyenne when you're on the main highway, but I did not take those when I could help it. On the way out of town, we saw some housing developments going on outside of Cheyenne. This is what it looks like for people who don't want to be near you and me. Probably future Coloradans. Wyoming people do not like Colorado people. They call them greenies because of the green license plates and because all their weed blows up over the border. Colorado people are bringing in their liberal politics, and they're driving up the cost of living here. People in Wyoming do not like that, because Wyoming's a very red state. It's pretty much here in West Virginia and Mississippi where you'll find most conservatives in one area. You may not know it, but Wyoming has a supercomputer. It's called the NCAR, whatever that means. But I know, who knew Wyoming people were so smart, right? Well, these people are. And apparently you can't bring your horse to work here. That sucks. But most people here are into shooting things and ranching. I mean, this is Dick Cheney land. Farming's not really a big deal here. It's mostly hay and sugar beets. Wyoming's 38th in the nation for farm output. But cattle's $1 billion a year industry here. There's twice as many cattle in the state as people. And there's a lot of sheep here too. Wyoming is second in the country for production of wool. The state's never really lost its whole cowboy vibe since it was a state. I mean, it's the cowboy state. And besides cattle and ranching, oil and coal are a big deal here. We'll talk about that later.
He's not here. Next camel we're looking at. Come on now, Samuel.
Besides guns and cattle ranchers and oilmen, Wyoming has a lot of drinkers. They drink the third most whiskey out of any other state. In a lot of the small towns here, the only thing they have for entertainment's trout fishing and bars. Every town in Wyoming seems to have a cowboy bar with a neon sign. And it's always open, and it's the only thing that's always open. Look at the decor in Wyoming bathrooms. Got cowboy stuff. And then, if that ain't Wyoming for you, don't spit or chew in the urinal. Except they got strawberries and cream. That ain't manly. One day we saw a place called JB's, and we needed some supplies. Then I was like, wait, next door is a bar called Old West that I forgot to take a picture of. Now this place, if there's one place that I could have stopped to sum up Wyoming, it was here. Tell me what it's like in a little small town in Wyoming.
Everybody knows your business when they really don't.
It's pretty consistent though.
You have to use your imagination to
It's
find
heaven.
things to do.
We're the least populated state in the union, and we like to keep it that way.
You know what?
A lot of U-Haul trucks come in the springtime, and those same U-Haul trucks haul ass out in the winter, after winter.
Right before the snow flies, they're gone.
We have the best beef in the world.
We have wind almost every single day out here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
On average, 22 miles an hour every single day of the year.
Yeah, I like it.
We have antelope, we have buffalo, we have elk, we have moose,
Mountain lion.
mountain lions, and our freezers are always full.
You have to be busy though. You can't just let it come to you.
So for entertainment, what's everybody
It's not
do
always easy.
for entertainment?
Well, let's see, when it's branding season,
Well,
that's entertainment for
our
us.
establishment tries to do something at least once a month, whether it be a
Come
live
on,
band
buddy.
or just music, karaoke. The sister tries to bring food up quite frequently. So, but the other bars they do a walleye night once a month over at Sea Spear.
The Virginian's always a big attraction.
Yes,
Historical
go play
value.
with the ghosts if you stay there. Stay there.
That gonna help you, sir?
That's he
we'll
works
talk
for
to you
a
later.
friend of mine.
No, you're good. I want you to, what kind of values do people have in small town Wyoming?
Traditional. For the most part.
Conservative?
Kids are mouthier than hell and do what they
Well,
want.
pretty much if you
You gotta
if you try and commit a crime and you're not from here, you're not going to make it too far out of town because we take care of our
In
own.
Wyoming, everybody's packing.
Yeah.
It's just a general rule, everybody's got a pistol.
Yeah.
You may not see it, they've got one.
You can come here and visit, but if you
don't have to
disrespect
have a
us,
permit for it.
you probably won't leave the state.
No.
So that's pretty much
Looks
cut and
familiar,
dry.
man. You look like this dude I need to see.
Only in Wyoming, I tell you. Now, earlier in the day, we had pulled over to check out a joint called the Bunkhouse Bar and Grill. But they're not open. Now, I know I would have loved that place too if it had been opened, damn it. It's probably good that it wasn't open, or I might have stayed here all day. Check the place out. Ashtrays for days, big old smoker, and places to hitch your horse up. We don't have enough of this left in America anymore. These are the kinds of places where folks gather to solve the world's problems and to talk about guns. Religion's not as important here as it is in many other states. I read once that Wyoming's about average when you measure the number of people who go to church regularly. The only conservative states where people are less into God are Montana, Alaska, and Maine. Interesting. Sometimes we just turn down a dirt road to see what we could find. Little areas where the mailboxes are at the end of the driveway and where someone has a pet horse or 50. It's really peaceful out here where all you can hear is the wind. I can see why people like this. Wyoming's a very scenic state. Everybody knows about Yellowstone. We'll see that later. There's a lot more than just Yellowstone here. One day we drove through the Medicine Bow National Forest. That was neat. Folks here told me that usually everything's yellow this time of year. The grass is dead. But they said we were lucky this year because it had rained and snowed a lot this past spring. So everything was green. I thought it was just divine. Green and blue. This part of Wyoming has a little bit of prairie and some desert and some big mountains. Really peaceful like. For this stretch, we were on the Lincoln Highway, named for our best president, and they have a memorial for him and everything here. They don't make him like him anymore, do they? This also seemed like a good time to clean the windows. The highway bugs are numerous and they are big. The UPS lady thinks so too. About midway on this day's journey, we made it to Laramie. It's the third biggest city in Wyoming. But there's only 32,000 people here. And I think like a third of them are college students. Laramie's home to the University of Wyoming, meaning it's the most liberal place in the whole state. 44% of Laramie votes Dem. Back in the day, this wasn't conservative though. Laramie County was so conservative, there were 4 people who voted Democrat in 1972. 4. Out of like 35,000 people. And everybody knew who those 4 people were. I'll tell you that. The University of Wyoming's a small school. There's 12,000 students. Nice looking, quiet, simple little campus. This was July, so most people were away. Nobody outside of Wyoming really talks about the U of W because their sports teams kind of stink. But here they do. Here, they love this university. College football is a big deal in Wyoming. It's the only real sports team this state has. There's a lot of Broncos and Nuggets fans and Avalanche fans, but those are all based in Colorado. Go Pokes! We're 7,200 feet above sea level, making this the highest altitude football stadium in the U.S. They went to the Potato Bowl. I took a piece of their end zone turf for my collection to remember it by. I don't think they'll miss it. Stadium policies. No drugs, no glass, no spurs, no gunfights. What? This is downtown Laramie. I really like this downtown. Most college towns are really charming, and this is no exception. I was glad it was summertime, so I could get around a little bit without too much effort. And they have good ice cream. Laramie was a strategic fort back in the cowboy and Indian days, but really grew when the railroad came to town. Laramie was called one of the best places to retire by an online publication you've heard of. They talked about the scenery and the low taxes and the safety and all the educational opportunities here. I was surprised. Laramie has more cowboy stuff than Cheyenne does, and Cheyenne's supposed to be the Wild West place around these parts. Born in a barn bar, buckhorn bar, the cowgirl, cowboy saloon and dance hall. Do Wyoming kids square dance? But there's a lot of liberal here too. You see stuff in Laramie that you'd never ever see in the rest of the state. For one, there's a lot of gay pride stuff here. For the first time ever, more than half of Wyoming people support gay marriage. I think it's the do whatever you want, just don't mess with me mentality in this state. Man, if Wyoming people drink a ton, and this is the only real college town in this state, I wonder just how much these people here drink. Probably way too much. DUIs are a huge problem in this state. Later in the day, we came across a place called Bossier, a population 5 or 10. I don't think anyone really knows. The whole place looks like an old fort that was set up to fend off the Injuns back in the day. This was actually the first time that I saw run-down, abandoned Wyoming up and close. Probably less now. It's just abandoned Wyoming. Then a little bit down the road, came across a town called Rock River. There's 219 people here, and the population's holding steady. I think the whole town's gravel roads. You could say this is a poor little town, but even though the income levels are low, it don't cost much to make a go of it out this way. Most stuff's in the $200,000 range. And home prices here are going down. So if you're into windy, dusty plains at the base of some mountain and you got a little extra scratch, this might be a good get-out spot. Left here, left here. The lady at the convenience store in town talked to me for a little bit and showed me around. It was very interesting to see how tiny town Wyoming lives. It's kind of like a little museum in here. This is cool. This is my kind of place.
We have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It's like the only store in town.
I know. There's nowhere else to shop. And somebody shot that buck, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is just, I mean, if you ain't got it, they ain't getting it.
Oh, I bet you can see this.
Yeah. It's the produce. Oh, little stuffed little weasel.
Yeah.
Does he have a name?
Oh. We'll call him Freddie.
Freddy. Alright. And of course we got ammo. So Freddy's in the ammo counter. Well, thank you. This is just lovely. This is like, I love looking at little towns like this.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, people have to, you know, how many, 200 people live here?
So, yeah, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
I guess it's kind of like, they call it like a bedroom community.
Is this like the little hangout spot?
Well, in winter we need to use that
Yeah. Yeah. This is just a little hangout in the back of this little store. And then we got Daddy's little hut. They sell meat here. A lot of meat. Like more cuts of meat than you knew existed. And they cannot split seasoned cows into quarters or halves unless commitments for all other portions are arranged. Meaning families split cows in these parts. Check out the old gas pump here. Throwback to the good old days. But sadly, I do not think this place has a long future. There's nothing. Bank's closed. Kind of looks like a place Jesse James would have robbed. Anyways, if you don't like people in your beeswax and you want to save some money, this is kind of place for you. I'm sure the place is full of good folks. I can tell from the gravel. I'll tell you what, they love their meat here. Steaks for days and days. At one intersection, I saw a place called the Sea Spear Grill and Beer, and then a block down was the Virginian Eating House and Saloon. Too much, Wyoming. Too much. Welcome to the Wyoming Wind Festival. It runs from the 1st of January all the way to December 31st. Being out here on the plains is tough. Summers are hot, like way above 100 on some days. And after being here for a week, I realized the later in the day you get, the hotter it gets. Like between 3 and 7, you just bake. The sun angles like a magnifying glass. It just wears you down. I asked somebody about that and she said, well, we're closer to the sun. I guess she's right. The whole state's like 6,000 feet above sea level. Don't believe me? Look at my Pringles can. We crossed the Continental Divide one day, way out in the middle of nowheres. elevation more than 7,000 feet. But then when the sun goes down, the temp drops instantly out here. And winters are like 140 degrees colder than the summers. And they are long and they are bitter. You can tell this is very hostile territory. You can't just drive across Wyoming without a plan. You better be prepared for the elements, and you should always stop for gas when there's an opportunity. And stock up. There's only 12 Walmarts in this whole land. Apparently, Wyoming has the worst emergency response time in the country. That's scary. And up and down the state, you see these barriers they have to break up the wind and the snow. You wouldn't fit in here if you don't like snow drifts. You also wouldn't fit in here if you're a hybrid vehicle driver, you wear a yarmulke, have any tattoos or piercings, have Colorado license plates, fish with worms, listen to hip hop, eat vegan, sort your recyclables, or wear Levi's. Because everybody knows Wrangler is the only game in town. The last stop on this day was the little town of Medicine Bow. There's just 300 people here or so these days, and it's dropping a little bit. Now this place is cheap. I know we're way out in the prairie and all, but you can get a decent place for like 40 to 120K. And all the little open lots that are in town, they're like $5,000 each. Get in on that, people. You'd probably be bored, though. I hear Butch Cassidy and his gang used to ravage this place back in the day. That must have been scary. They were supposed to build a big coal plant in town and bring in some additional state revenue. But the cost of crude oil dropped so much, they just scrapped the plans. Sucks. And they have a little library in town. And look at this little park. Just the perfect little Wyoming town.
In the far and mighty west, where the crimson sun seeks rest, there's a growing splendid state that lies above on the breast of this great land. Wyoming, Wyoming, beloved state of mine.
So we spent 2 days in the little city of Rawlins, Wyoming, population 8,200 and going down. I did a whole video on this place that you can watch. The reason that we stopped here was because people say this place is bad, but I don't think it's that bad. It's a little poor and a little beat up. They've had some oil booms and busts here, and I think right now they're in a bit of a bust based on all the abandoned motels all over town. We also took a tour of an old abandoned prison where Wyoming's worst people lived for a long time. The place is super spooky. So a lot of the smaller Wyoming towns are here because of railroads and oil and coal. You'd be hard-pressed to meet anyone in these parts that's not connected to the coal industry. You might not know it, but Wyoming has 6 of the 10 largest coal mines in America. But coal and gas are going away, and a lot of people in this state are worried. I mean, look what happened to West Virginia. They've talked about transitioning Wyoming over to wind power, which a lot of old-timers here hate the thought of. But it's not a bad idea with the wind and the terrain out here. Something to think about. The morning on our way to the reservation, we saw a lemonade stand right off the highway. I was like, is this a trap? Kind of reminded me of the whole Wile E. Coyote Roadrunner thing. Well, we realized the place was run by some Amish kids. And I don't think Amish kids are going to hurt anyone, right? So for $2, I got the sugar I needed to fend off lunch. Now at this point, we were way out in the middle of nowhere. Like, way. That's when it really sank in, when we came across a major Oregon Trail crossing. I was like, damn, the people who made this trek were tough. It's brutal just getting out of the car to go pee in the gas station and come back. You can practically hear all the gunshots, women screaming, kids crying, and wagon wheels busting. I wondered if there was any dysentery left behind in these hills. And then, 20 minutes down the road, I accidentally found another portion of the trail. We just pulled over to admire this ranch we came across. The place is called the Pathfinder, full of macho men, I assume. I was just out there getting footage when this happened. Look at all that land. That is a lot of land. Wait, what's this? The Mormon Trail? There's a Mormon Trail right here. I didn't even know this was here. The Mormon Trail went right through here. Look at that. There's still ruts. I had no idea. Stuff you see when you get off the roads in the middle of Wyoming, huh? That was neat. And then I started looking around more and paying attention, and I think I saw more old Oregon Trail ruts all over the place. Wyoming people drive more miles each day than anyone else in the country. And they don't measure things in miles, they measure it in time. But all the isolation's one of the reasons Wyoming ranks second in the country for suicides. Some experts call this part of the country the suicide belt. It's just remote. There's not a lot of mental health care. A lot of people drink. And it's a tough cowboy culture where you don't admit you're wrong. Failure is not accepted. Right around noon, we happened to cross a place called Lake Ridge Estates. I was like, there's a housing development way out here. You can see how much it costs to live here because they have a web search result right on the billboard. $11,000 per acre? What? Time to get out of California, huh, everyone? And no, they didn't pay me to say that. Wish they did. Neat place. Opportunity, everyone. Don't come here and ruin the place, though. You're going to have a hard time if you come here and try and do that. You don't really know a place well until you go into their little gas stations. They all have some kind of only in Wyoming inside. Like rubber band guns for the kids with scopes on them. Good Lord. Some of them have these slot machines where you just gamble away your money while you're getting gas. One of them I saw had these huge knives for sale behind the counter, and I forgot to get a picture of it, damn it. But I was like, those are machetes. And by the way, their biggest gas station chain here is called Stinker. I thought that was interesting. Later in the day, we were just cruising around and we passed a joint called the Horseshoe Bar. And it was one of the most cowboy bars I had seen up to this point. They were hosting a hog fest coming up that I wish I would have seen. Anyway, I went inside the Horseshoe Bar, but I really felt out of place, so I was kind of only able to snap a few pictures. Like, seriously, I hardly ever feel like I don't belong somewhere, but I was way underdressed. I looked like a damn tourist. I was like, I can't be seen in this cowboy bar. So I hightailed it out of there before they could question my manhood. And then right next door was Cowboy State Custom Meats. Had to go in there. What? That sounds good. Sorry, it's super windy here. Like every minute of every day. The beef jerky sure looked good, as did the local cuts of meat. The good folks at Cowboy State Custom Meats gave me a tour of their place and even let me inside their meat freezer. See what being a handsome YouTube superstar gets you?
So this is a freezer that we don't use right now.
Okay.
It's just used for box storage.
Yeah.
And all that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. But this is the big freezer.
Ooh,
And it's full.
dang, look at all that meat.
Everything from beef, pork, lamb.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
That was not your thing. Just down the road was a little town of Alcova, population 34, maybe less, maybe more. We needed some fuel, so we took a load off. Just a small little place where people do God knows what for fun. Maybe commute into Casper. Check this out though. This was surprising. Houses here are like 322 grand, and they've gone up by 20% in the last year. I think the entire town's a retirement destination, like a mini old folks' home out among the streams and mountainsides. I read that the average person here earns more than $100K a year, so people just come out here and buy property and just get out of the way of the rest of the country. Good for them. I also learned later that Little Alcova is the center of population for the whole state. Right here. I'm in the middle of Wyoming. Not very exciting. But if you want to see a real population center, just down the road's Casper, population 60,000. It's the second biggest city in the state. If you added up all the people in Cheyenne and Casper, that would be a quarter of the whole state's population. I like Casper. They have a really nice and clean little downtown with lots of small businesses lining the streets. It seemed lively for a random Thursday morning. I guess some of it's tourists. But there's nothing around for a long drive, so I guess all the rural people have to get their tack and feed and buckskin knives somewhere, right? I later learned that Casper's home to the state's only 2 escalators. I really wish I knew that when I was there. I would have gone in and seen if people were riding them for entertainment or not. But here's a picture of one of them. Casper looks like a nice conservative place with no real world problems. But they're coming in. You know how us Americans like to ruin everything. I just read about something that happened a week ago, right after I had left. A bunch of homeless people destroyed a motel in town and then ran around town and left 500 pounds of poop on downtown sidewalks. Are you kidding me? Well, the Casper mayor was like, Casper's starting to look like a third world country. And we need to start enforcing the law. We need to get these squatters out of here. God, you do not want this, Wyoming. You need to stop that right now before it's too late. I mean, Wyoming, really? Do we have nothing nice left? God. Driving around the Casper neighborhoods, I was like, this looks pretty hick town. Nothing wrong with that, though. Just blue-collar, hard-working folks. Some simple lifers with guns. 70% of Casper votes Republican. That's why I was so surprised to hear about the new bum world going on downtown. It's also cheap. You can get in here well under $300K. And over here in rural Casper, it's even cheaper than that. I'll bet the bums and lowlives don't make their way out to this part of town. They'd regret that. 500 pounds of shit in downtown. What is going on in this country? Just outside of town, we happened onto the Central Wyoming Fair. We got there before it kicked off for the day. State fairs are a big deal here in Wyoming, because there really isn't a lot of other entertainment to look forward to outside all the rodeos. It's going to be a few hours till it opens up. I wish it was open, but I'd see a real fair in Montana a week later. As we got closer to the reservation, it got more desolate. I mean, look at the dusty GPS unit. It's just all sand everywhere. And we passed a place called Highland, Wyoming, where they say there's 110 people in town, but almost everything looked like it was abandoned. Seriously, we spent 10 minutes driving around, and I didn't see a single person. And then right before we got to the reservation, we passed through Little Monetta, home to 10 people. They must all be in those two houses, because there ain't nothing else around. Nothing I could see anyways. The following day, we drove around the Wind River Reservation. I have a whole video on that place that you can watch. It's very poor, and there's a lot of crime, but it's really pretty here. I talked to a local who grew up here, and he said the natives here, they don't care about wealth. It's all about family and tradition more than anything else. This is the largest Native American reservation in Wyoming. Think of all the battles that happened here. Pioneers versus Indians, pioneers versus pioneers, Injuns versus Injuns. There's a lot of graves out here. A lot of graves. Most of the people who have jobs here work at the biggest casino in the state. That's where we stayed for the night. I lost a bunch of money here. And then one time when I was filming, security guy came over and he asked me to delete the footage from your phone. Put your phone away, no filming in here. My God, no one's ever asked me to delete footage before. So I pretended to delete it off of my phone because I didn't want to go to Indian jail. And then I very secretly recorded more. So enjoy this rare, very dangerous footage inside of the Wind River Casino. You'll only find it here on my channel.
Back in the old days, they shot Indians for doing that.
Nappy, no! We don't do that anymore. These people have good values. Better values than we have. Get on with that talk, damn it! I'm taking your gun away now.
Hey!
On day 6, we went from the reservation up to Cody, and to be honest, there really wasn't a whole lot to see. Except the amazing mountains. Hello? The terrain sure has changed, huh everyone? Most of the trip had been wide open prairies and mountains way off in the distance. But the northern part of Wyoming looks like this. Looks like we're in Yellowstone. That's because we're almost in Yellowstone at this point. And then we passed a scenic viewpoint called Dead Indian Turnoff. I was like, that's mean. It's insensitive. We came across the community of Thermopolis, population 2,700 and going down. It's mostly well known because they have natural hot springs and geothermal things going on here. I didn't stop to see any of that though. Sorry to disappoint you and all. But they do have a really cool downtown. Check it out. The place is 97% white, just like most of the other small towns we've seen so far. Just another cheap place with low crime out on the plains. And then we came to Cody, Wyoming. Now this is probably my favorite place when I was here. There's a whole video just on Cody that you should watch. Cody is a total throwback to how the West was won. I'll tell you what, folks here love their guns. They have them on them at all times, and they are locked and loaded. Always keep one in the pipe. Constitutional carry land. Wyoming ranks second in the country, just behind Montana, for number of guns per capita. 2/3 of folks here have at least one gun at home. Some Wyoming people have a gun for every day of the week. And guess what? Wyoming's the 9th safest state. All them guns have the bad guys shaking in their boots, I tell ya. There's about 10,000 people here in Cody. Homes are about 350K. It's about the national average. You can get a lot of land up here. But it's not as cheap as you might think. Most of Cody's cowboy-themed tourism. There's old hotels and bars where macho men duked it out and stole ladies' hearts. Now the opposite of Cody's Jackson, which has been taken over by rich liberal people from California. I didn't go there because they wanted $800 a night for a damn hotel. But here's what Jackson looks like. And then the final stop of the trip was Yellowstone National Park, America's most popular natural wonder. We got there at 7 a.m. to avoid the crowds. It worked. You could spend a week here and still not see everything. But we only had half a day, so we did the northeast most part of the park. In a half a day, we saw 2 bald eagles, probably 1,000 bison, 4 bears, some white pelicans, some baby deer, and some varmint thing that I think was a woodchuck that ran across the road. The bison, though, that's a real hoot. I mean, they walk right past you. Like, right past you. Happened twice. Hey, buddy. Where are you going? Huh? Okay. Bye. Which way are you going? You want to ride? People get gored or run over by bison every summer because people are idiots. Bison are twice as dangerous as grizzly bears, but people just don't care. They want to walk up and take their bison selfies and get all up close to them. Not a good idea. Look at these people. It was bison mating season, but we didn't see any of that though. Wish we did. They're funny. They are. Bison boy just don't care. People in Wyoming love to hunt, but you can't shoot these. Where'd you get that thing, damn it? This is the national park, Mappy. You don't shoot them things. Gonna get us thrown in Yellowstone jail, where they feed you bison patties and geyser water.
You can't drink geyser water. It's too hot.
There was still snow on the mountains here in mid-July. I thought that was neat. Then there was a big part of Yellowstone where all the trees are dead. I think it was from a fire they had. Drought is something people here have to worry about. My driver was very excited that we saw 4 bears that morning. I guess for a short drive, that's a lot for this place. And you sure know when there's a bear in the area, because everybody pulls over and makes a big traffic jam, and then the park rangers come in and announce things, and everybody looks like some famous celebrities in the area. This was cool, though. This was the first bear I've ever seen in nature. I know, right? Here's another bear. Here's another bear. We turned a corner at the very end, and it was like Jurassic Park with all the bison on the horizon. Wonderful indeed.
So that's our Redneck rodeo clown. Who would love to see Mr. Zeno get hit in that barrel tonight? Anybody? Yeah. I want to see you get hit, dude.
I do
want
too.
to be a rodeo clown?
It was my last day in Wyoming, and then we went back down to Cody and we watched a rodeo.
Here we go.
So far, it had been 17 days and more than 2,000 miles. I knew there'd be a lot more to see on this Mountain West adventure. I would see Montana and Idaho over the next couple weeks. But I thought, I don't think anything's going to compare to my days here in Wyoming. There's something about Wyoming that I really liked. Wyomingites are a unique bunch. They don't need the rest of the world to survive. The towns here are small, tight-knit groups that work together to live the life they want to, on their terms. Life's a lot more simple here. They're a resourceful and self-reliant type and ready to jump in and help their neighbors. People just keep their heads down and work hard and block the wind and look forward to the next time nothing happens. Because in Wyoming, nothing happening is a good thing. Who knows? Maybe one day this place will be discovered. Maybe not. I don't honestly think anyone here really cares all that much about the rest of the country. They've got a pretty good thing going here. I think this is the last true, real American state we have left. And that makes me sad. You can really still get away in Wyoming. It's pretty much the last state where you can still be free. They don't put up with a lot of crap in Wyoming. None of that stuff that you would see in a state like yours. Wyoming is a place that you should just go. They need you, you need them, it's so perfect so. Come shoot your guns and ride a horse in Wyoming. There's a lot of land where you can bring your whole damn family. Wyoming is so big, there's a lot of room. So much sky, so much space, not much fun for you. You can be anything you want to be in Wyoming. Come be a cowboy, come be a man. Come be a cowboy, come be a man. Come be a cowboy, come be a man. Life is calling you. Wyoming's big. Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. And I can also help you find your new house, too. Email me and I'll work with you. I'm not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home, too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.